Narcissistic parents, narcissists in general, will use manipulation tactics to gain and maintain control over their targets, over their family members. It is just something that they must do. It's part of the disorder. So, in this video, I'm going to be talking about 10 behaviors that narcissistic parents normalize and that you may also be repeating, or you may be watching other family members repeating it. And it could be really useful to be thoughtful about where you see this show up in your family system, where you see it showing up in your own family or in your own life. Because if you are somebody who's introspective and you care about evolving and changing and growing, then you can change those behaviors. So let's get started. I'm Dr. Meg Haworth. I'm a transpersonal psychologist, holistic nutritional chef, best-selling author, and the founder of Love School Online Holistic Academy. It's for wounded ACONs, adult children of narcissists who've been through so much. And this academy helps you to become a healed icon. And an icon is somebody who's independent, confident, original, and naturally you. So let's get started. The first destructive behavior that narcissistic parents normalize on a regular basis is silence, silencing, and the silent treatment. And this is something that they do often. And you may be finding yourself repeating this as you go through your own life. And so they silence their targets, they silence their family members in so many different ways. They don't want other people to know what they're really like behind closed doors. So they create situations where you were constantly worried about telling the truth to others. They do some things that are pretty awful and out there. And you're afraid to tell other people about what they're doing because they won't believe you. Even therapists, when you become an adult and you go into therapy, I hear this all the time from clients who come to me. Therapists that don't believe their patients coming in and telling them these outrageous stories, because some of the things that narcissistic parents, narcissists in general, do are completely outrageous. But they're so used to covering up everything with their lies and their gaslighting that they're geniuses at conning people into believing that they're something they aren't. And then they con you into believing something that you aren't. They con you into believing you're a bad person. So the silent treatment is this thing that they use to punish you. And, sometimes you get in an argument with somebody and you might need a little space. And the silent treatment from a narcissistic parent isn't about getting space so you can work through something in your own mind and go back and have a conversation. That's never going to happen with a narcissistic parent. What's going to happen instead is they will go into the silent treatment and not talk to you at all. And you'll feel this tremendous anger and rage coming towards you when they're in this silent treatment place. And they'll just shut down and cut you off without any warning, without any discussion. And there will never be a discussion later on either. So it's really disempowering when you think about the way that they use silence to hurt other people, and especially family members. So think about ways that you might be doing the same thing. Maybe you shut down and cut off, and maybe you do that to protect yourself. But it's different when you can look at yourself and look at why you do it. A narcissistic person, by and large, is not going to look at themselves. On some occasions they do, but it's very rare that they're ever going to admit they have a problem and go seek therapy and help for their problems. So the silent treatment and being silenced are very common. I hear it all the time from my clients, and I know that I've been through it too with every narcissistic person that I have been in contact with over the years. Number 2 of the destructive behaviors that narcissistic parents will normalize in their family system is never working through anything. They never come back to a situation or a conversation or an argument or anything. And if you try to come back and say, hey, can we talk about this thing? They'll shut you down. They'll minimize, dismiss, avoid, do whatever they can to not take accountability for what they did. They're not going to offer a true apology. They might offer a blanket apology, like, I'm sorry you feel that way. That's not an apology. An apology is, I'm sorry that I hurt you. I'm sorry that I didn't listen to you. I'm sorry that I dismissed you. But they wouldn't admit to those things. And so never working through anything is a big part of the narcissistic family system and what they normalize. So it becomes a normal behavior. So you leave your narcissistic family without any skills as to how to work through things, how to talk through things. And you might be somebody who really wants to talk through things and wants to work through things, but you really don't know how to do it. And so it's very important for you to go and learn the skill. And you can learn that in therapy. You can Google things on YouTube, learning about how to speak to people in high conflict situations. There's so many people out there that are helping people understand how to speak to others. And it doesn't even have to be high conflict. It's just, you might think of any little request that you have as something that could produce conflict because you grew up in such a high conflict environment. Anything that you said, they could have blown up at. And so you assume on some level that other people might do the same thing. And some people will, but many people won't. There are a lot of people out there that just want to work through things, that want to talk through things, but you may have to learn how to do that. Number 3 of the 10 destructive behaviors that narcissistic parents normalize is the dismissal of emotions. This is a big one that is very much normalized in narcissistic family systems. So you have an emotional experience. Maybe you get upset and you're hurt about some way that you were treated. Maybe they disrespected you somehow, which is something that happens on a regular basis in narcissistic family systems. You try to express yourself and say, hey, I'm feeling really hurt. You may even be crying in front of them and letting them know like what the problem is. They're not going to hear what your problem is. They're going to see whatever you're saying in their mind is an attack on them, even though that's not your approach. In most cases, that's not really what you're trying to do. You're just trying to express yourself and say, hey, let's sit down and have this conversation. But what they do is they minimize and dismiss your emotional experience. And they'll say things to you like, oh, you're just being overly sensitive. You always do this. Here come the waterworks. Just anything that they can do to try to dismiss what you're feeling, or they may make it small. And make no mistake about this is a form of gaslighting that narcissists do. Narcissistic people, avoidant, attachment disordered people also do the same thing, where they're trying to get you. Some of it's unconscious, but with a narcissistic person, it's very conscious. They're trying to get you to doubt your reality. They're trying to get you to minimize and dismiss your own emotions because they don't want to deal with your emotions. They can't deal with their own emotions. And again, they're feeling attacked when that's not at all what you're trying to do. But that's how they think. They think completely differently than somebody who is empathetic and caring, who wants to try to listen and try to work things out. It's not something they do. You might listen to your friend or family member about, what they're thinking and feeling, and want to hear and provide empathy and support. A narcissistic parent doesn't know how to do that. They're not going to learn how to do that, no matter how much you try to educate them in how to talk to you. They're not interested in learning any of that. Their reality is going to be totally rewritten, and they're going to cast you as the bad person no matter what you do. Number 4 of the destructive behaviors that narcissistic parents normalize is minimizing the experiences of others. They will minimize the experiences of others. And this could be an experience that is awesome, like you had a big achievement or an accomplishment of some sort. And they'll be like, well, whatever, that's not that big of a deal. Or you'll tell them that you did something really amazing and they'll go, oh, great. And then they'll move on and talk about themselves or do something else, or so those are ways that they may dismiss something great that you've done that they don't want to acknowledge because they, usually it's pushing up against their jealousy, or something that they wish that they could be doing. They don't want to be reminded like of your intelligence or your goodness or anything that may make them uncomfortable. The things that make us comfortable and happy with our friends, like intelligence, like somebody who's empathetic and kind and caring and easy to talk to and fun to be with, those are things that can really shut a narcissistic person down because they are often so mired in so much jealousy, and they think in terms of competition and not in terms of cooperation, which is something that a highly empathetic person tends to think in terms of. So dismissing and minimizing your experiences, and like I said just in the last one, that if they're minimizing your emotional experience as well, and they may say things to you like, well, that never happened, or no, it didn't happen that way, you're exaggerating, or and you know full well how the thing happened. You were there, you had that experience, and you're recounting the experience, but then they are minimizing it. And that also is another form of gaslighting that narcissists use to make you doubt your reality, make you think that you're the problem, you're the one to blame in this situation, because again, they're not taking accountability for anything that they do. It's your fault. Number 5 of the behaviors that narcissistic parents normalize in narcissistic family systems is using anger and rage as a way to get you to shut up. So make no mistake on this one. Anger and rage is something that they can use at a moment's notice. You never know when they're going to do it. They're suddenly going to just start screaming at you. They may slam a door. They may say, I'm done, and then just leave. They may do this on a text. There's all these different ways that they will express their anger and their rage, and they're doing it purposely to try to get you to stop talking about the thing that they don't want to deal with, to try to get you to stop shattering the illusion of what it is that they've already created in their minds. They want you to follow their script, but they never give you the script that they want you to follow. It's just in their head. They want things to go a certain way. And if you go a different direction, like you say no to something that they've already decided is going to be fun and we're going to do this thing, or it's going to be great or whatever, they're going to come unglued somehow and then try to talk you into it. And they'll do that even in a manipulative manner. This use of anger and rage to get you to stop talking. It's another way of silencing you, which was really the number one thing. Silence is such a huge part of growing up in a narcissistic family system, being silenced. And a primary way they do this is using rage to get you to stop. And it's intentional. People will ask me, well, isn't it just like a behavior pattern where they just suddenly snap? It's, for a narcissistic person, it's an intentional way of getting control back, because they feel out of control when you point out the truth that they don't want to look at. And then they also think you're attacking them, when again, you're not attacking them. You might just be simply pointing something out or sharing an opinion or an idea or a thought. But you're not supposed to do those things. You're supposed to stay in alignment with the way the narcissistic parent thinks at all times. But the problem is you often don't know what that alignment is. A lot of it gets sprung on you in the last minute, and then boom, they just lose it. And then you become scared of them. This is how they bully. I mean, narcissists are bullies, and they will bully you into silence over and over again, minimizing and dismissing your reality. And anger and rage is a big way that they do this. Number 6 of the destructive behaviors that narcissistic parents normalize is illegal activities and bad behavior. I see this all the time in my practice. It's unbelievable the things that narcissistic parents will normalize. They're so good at manipulating and talking people into their agendas that you actually may more or less give up your own values to be in alignment with whatever it is that they want. They're so good at this. This is why these are the con artists of the world. These are, you've heard me say that if you're an ACON, you've been conned, right? Adult child of a narcissist, you've been conned into believing all these things that aren't true, but you've also been conned into believing that it's okay to do fill in the blank. And in my practice, I have seen nutty things that narcissistic parents have done. And one that comes to mind, for instance, is a narcissistic parent who took her daughter's car, her adult daughter, and sold it, and then took that money and put it into the house, and then then made her think that that was okay. Like, this is how you're contributing to the household. She didn't consult her. She needed a car. She now didn't have a car, and she's supposed to feel good about the fact that it's going into the house. And it was just, it's very twisted thinking, but that's a normal way that narcissistic parents act. They do all kinds of illegal things. It's something I refer to as first name justice. And so you just put in the first name, fill in the blank of that person. And so maybe their name is John, and it's John Justice. And it's whatever they decide should be legal or not legal, and it has nothing to do with the actual legal system. They don't care. So they're normalizing all kinds of bad behaviors. I've seen narcissistic parents who normalized having girlfriends when they were still married because the wife was sick. And it was just like nuts, but they did it. They were able to make this seem like this was the thing that should be okay. That, I'm suffering from the fact that my wife is sick and can't show up as a wife. It's like, what about in sickness and in health? But they're, again, so good at manipulating and describing why they think they are entitled. And this is where that big entitlement comes in with narcissists in general, why they think they're entitled to treat people the way that they treat them. And they do this all the time. I've seen narcissistic parents record their family with cameras and then go back and tell them, well, I can't believe you said this, and made them wrong for saying something that they didn't agree with or they didn't think should be said, but they recorded them, and that's okay. So things like that are things that I've seen over and over again get normalized by narcissistic parents, by narcissists in general, not doing the proper building codes and then, being upset when someone finds out and they get a fine because they didn't think that they should have to. And again, they normalized it. So this is a big one that we see all the time with narcissists in general, narcissistic parents. And it's something that's really hard for the person on the receiving end, because you will find your values being whittled away at by their behaviors. And it's incredibly uncomfortable. And that if you don't adjust to what it is that they're telling you is okay, when in your heart and in all ways of normalcy and kindness that these things are absolutely not okay, but you feel like you don't have any choice. And this is where that silencing comes in, where you will feel like you cannot say anything. And you may say those words to your friends, to your family. You cannot say anything to this narcissistic person without there being major consequences for you. And so you keep your mouth shut and you stay in that prison of silence that I often talk about. Number 7 of the 10 destructive behaviors that narcissistic parents use is that they use a system of hierarchy. And they do this through casting people in different roles in the family system. And so the golden child is usually the one who's put up on the pedestal, that is given a lot more than the other kids are given. They may be given a better education. They may be given a house. They may be given a lot more things than the other kids are. They tend to be more compliant. So they will learn that, like, okay, in order to please my narcissistic parents, I'm going to have to perform and I'm going to have to do well in things that they approve of. And then, so you may end up living your whole life trying to do something that they approve of. And so that can happen a lot with the golden child. The golden child often becomes narcissistic. And so one of the things that these roles, the scapegoat is another role that we see, invisible child, the enabling child, those different roles, but it's the narcissistic parent who is the director of the whole play, and they're casting you in these roles, and your roles may shift and change based on what you do, because everything's about externals. It's not about the internal person that you are and bringing that person out and nurturing that person and helping that person become who they were meant to be. It's not how it works in these systems. So they normalize these hierarchies in these systems. So then the kids start to understand, oh, the golden child, no matter what age they are, what part of the birth order they're in, the golden child is the one who gets the attention. The golden child is the one who gets to be in charge of things. And you're not supposed to say anything, especially if that child was taught to target you specifically. You're not supposed to say anything. Because again, they're going to see anything you say, any question you ask, anything as an attack. And so these hierarchies get really normalized. And so then you go through life looking at people in different hierarchies, looking at your own family system. If you had a family of your own, maybe in hierarchies. Not everybody is doing this, but some of the children in the narcissistic family may be doing this and not even realizing you're doing this. Like, that person's the smarter one. That person's more in charge. That person is the one who messes up all the time. That person is the one that's the golden child, and they're under all this pressure to perform and do better and be better, and they know it. And this whole thing, this hierarchy and these structures of narcissistic family systems, these roles that you were put in, the key is to learn to lay down the role and stop playing the role in your family. And that's a process, but that is something that it can happen, and you can get free from these hierarchies by stepping out of your role in the family system, which may mean you have to leave the family. And it may mean you have low contact with them. It can mean all kinds of things, but those hierarchies get really normalized as though this is how all families should operate. There's not that sense of cooperation. There's a sense of competition. There's a sense of, fighting with one another, division. All of that is a big part of narcissistic family systems. Number 8 of the 10 destructive behaviors that narcissistic parents normalize in their family systems is family gossip. Now, I told you earlier that in a narcissistic family, no one's going to work through anything. Nobody has these skills. Nobody wants these skills. When you work through things, that means people have to take accountability. Repair requires that. Repair in a relationship requires sharing, like, hey, this thing that you do really bothers me. Can you maybe not do that? Or those kinds of things don't happen. You don't give the person a chance to say sorry, to take accountability in the family system. And because a narcissistic person in the family thinks that everybody else thinks like they think or should think like they think, people that are empathetic and want to work through things, they don't get the attention or the notice. They get dismissed. They don't want to deal with any of that. So they don't want to deal with you is basically what happens with you. So what happens with this family gossip is that instead of them coming to you and saying, hey, I've got this problem, you're doing this thing, and can we talk about it? It doesn't happen. So what they do is they go to other family members, and everybody else knows what the problem is. They've told everybody what the problem is. And at that point, they have rewritten reality to cast you in the role of the problem. And this is how the smear campaign happens and how it escalates. And so you are telling everybody else about this awful thing that this person in your family did, but you're rewriting the reality of what actually happened. And what happens is you typically rewrite that reality in such a way that you no longer have any responsibility in the relationship and what happened. So the smear campaign, the gossip, all of that escalates. And now the scapegoated person is being pushed out of the family system. And for that scapegoated person, it's incredibly painful. It's absolutely heartbreaking to be pushed out of the family system when all you had to do was go and talk to that person. All you had to do was to have a conversation. But again, these skills are not taught. The level of emotional maturity in narcissistic family systems, by and large, is right about 3, 4, 5 years old, because the person at the top, the narcissistic parent, their development was arrested at about a year and a half, 2 years, 3 years old. And so you will experience them, if you think about it, they're like big toddlers. You'll be like, oh my God, my mother is an 80-year-old toddler. She just throws fits to get people to stop doing what they're doing. She uses manipulation tactics constantly, and she gossips all the time, telling everybody about everyone else, but never talks to anybody. This is a behavior that is normalized. So look at your own family system, look at your own relationships. It doesn't matter what your relationships are. If this was normalized, you may not be talking to other people and working through things. You may be running around just gossiping and judging and assuming. Big thing that happens with narcissists is they assume all these things about you that aren't true. And then they pass off those stories to others as the truth without ever having a conversation with you. It's very destructive. It's very painful for the person on the receiving end of it, who ends up maybe learning about it or just has a real strong sense that this is what's going on. So this family gossip is a big part of the problem that perpetuates this from generation to generation. So look at your own and see what you do too, and think about how you might start having conversations with people, with anybody, and start working through things and really acquiring those skills. So number 9 of the destructive behaviors that are normalized in narcissistic family systems, started to touch on it in the last one, is assuming what others are thinking and what they're doing. You assume another person's motivations because you never have conversations with them about what they were thinking and feeling. You assume those things, and then again, you pass that off as a reality of something that happened when it may not have. So that happens so much in narcissistic family systems, is thinking that you know what's going on with the other person, but never checking it out with them, because that prison of silence, you might hear me talk about a lot. The prison of silence this is part of that prison of silence. This assuming things about other people and passing those things off as reality when you never bothered to have the conversation to find out, well, what are you thinking? What is going on with you? So that's in narcissistic family systems, that can be dangerous. That can feel dangerous, especially for the people with high trait narcissism. It, again, can feel like an attack. And that's one of the things that they're always trying not to do. They're trying to avoid feeling their own shame at all costs. They'll experience you as attacking them in some way, when again, that's not what you're trying to do at all. So making assumptions about others is something that you might be carrying forward as well. And so you can start thinking about, well, maybe I should have a conversation with this person instead of assuming I know what they're thinking and what they're doing, or that thing that they did, like you know why they did it, because they may not even know why they did it. But your conversation might help them be reflective, self-reflective, and say, oh, you know what? I think I did that because blah, blah, blah. So this is an important thing to really think about, because again, it's been normalized. And number 10 of the destructive behaviors that narcissistic parents normalize is the lack of empathy for other people in the family system. So you may have empathy or sympathy, or you can feel for your friends, but when it comes to your family member, especially the one that you were taught to target, and you were trained to target by that narcissistic parent, you will have a complete lack of empathy for them. And all these things that I've been talking about in this video of minimizing and dismissing their experience, minimizing their emotional experience, shutting them down by saying things like, you're too sensitive, or, well, you're not the only one who's going through this issue. They'll do all things like this to try to keep you from expressing what they don't want to hear. And they want to feel more comfortable. And so they'll try to get you to be the way they want you to be so that they'll feel more comfortable, because it's always about the comfort of the person who has more status in the room, in that hierarchy or in that role that they were placed in. It's about their comfort. and about the comfort of the narcissistic parent. But the problem is you can never really truly predict what's going to make them comfortable or not comfortable in any given moment because you never know what's going to set them off. And so this lack of empathy that can happen in family systems and for people in your family system, you don't think about how what you're doing might impact them. And even if they tell you they're hurt or they're heartbroken, you're not going to be able to hear them because you have entered in. It's almost like a force field, this emotional force field of, I can't feel empathy for you. If I do that, I will have to admit that I was wrong. I will have to make apology. I will, so they will always twist it as an attack. And empathy, just to kind of go through what it really is, it's feeling with another person. It's walking a mile in their shoes. What must it feel like to them when I dismiss their emotional experience? It's not a question that happens inside of narcissistic family systems unless the person has been getting therapy specifically for parental narcissistic abuse and the programming that comes along with it. Those programs that tell you I'm not good enough, I never get it right, and I don't matter. Those programs really are running inside of you. And this is why I have Love School Online Holistic Academy. And then I have my programs. There's a self-study program, there's a group coaching program, and then there's also a VIP one-on-one mentorship that's very exclusive. And I do only a few of those each year. So if you're interested in learning about how you can heal holistically from parental narcissistic abuse, how you can work with your energy system, releasing the emotional energy from your body that you've been holding in your system, with my whole person integration technique, and you can learn more about how you can heal holistically. I also, as a holistic chef, I'll help you with food to support your body to heal itself while you're going through your emotional patterning and releasing of these emotional patterns. And I love to watch the freedom and the transformation that happens for the people that I work with. It's been almost 30 years of doing this work, and it's just been the greatest thrill of my life to be able to help so many people do what worked for me and what continues to work for me too, having grown up in a narcissistic family system and having lived everything that I talked about today. So if this information has been helpful for you, I want you to go ahead and look at the links below. Look into Love School Online, and you can also apply to speak with me for free, to see if just to learn more about my programs, to see if my work might be a good fit for you, and we might be a good fit for each other. I do like to talk to people to see if that's the case. I think it's really important to make sure there's synergy with the person that's helping you with your healing process. So I hope this information has been really helpful for you. If you haven't already done so, please like this video, please subscribe to my channel. Please share this with as many people as you think might benefit. And again, you can apply to speak to me for free. Those are in the links below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this information will help you get well now.